All right, welcome to Cwic Show. My name is Greg Mattson, and I am your host. In this episode, we are going to talk more about the Tim Ballard story. I've got some firsthand knowledge, firsthand experience in learning more about what is going on possibly in the story. Before we delve into this, I want to talk about my sponsor, Fathom the Good. Fathom the Good is online curriculum, online high school curriculum that is built off of the principles of Western philosophy. This curriculum is put together by my good friend Ralph Hancock, who is a professor of political philosophy at Brigham Young University. This allows you to help bring up your kids non-woke in a woke world. Check out the curriculum at fathomthegood.com. That's fathomthegood.com. Go there now. All right. Greetings from Cairo, Egypt. I am in a place where outside of the hotel, I don't get a whole lot of communication. This has been very difficult in working with sources. But I've had a lot of information given to me over the last week or so, and I've had to take some time to process all of this. I have not been ready to divulge certain things. I feel for what I am going to divulge now, I feel that it is appropriate for me to do so at this point. And so I am now recording and sending this out to you. As I start this, I want to let you know a couple of things. Number one, there is a massive disinformation or information war going on right now with this story. I have several different sources. They come in from different sides and different angles on this, supporting Tim, not supporting Tim. And it's really a whirlwind. And there are some things that don't quite fit yet and other things that are beginning to become more and more clear. First thing is, I want to say that Tim is not the church. And I get the reason I bring this up is because I get so many comments from people where it's very obvious that almost to some degree their testimonies are tied to the church's statement and how things are going with Tim. And I hope that is not something that you're going to hang on to. Tim is not the church. The church has to work in a political world, and therefore they have a political side. There is a corporate side to the church, so to speak, that should be standing outside of your testimony, whether it's getting vaxes or whether it's the border or whether it's how things are dealt with with the LGBTQ community on one side or the other. These should not be a part of your testimony. These things have to be handled from a corporate side, a policy side, and Tim's story is one of the examples of this. And so please try and keep that separate. I want to talk about the statement here a little bit from the church. Number one, the statement is the statement. This is the statement from the church, regardless of how it got to us. This is the statement from the church. And it was given to Vice. Now, a lot of people say, well, this is a ridiculous statement. It probably doesn't come from the church. It does come from the church, right? They didn't just say, hey, we want to send this statement out to Vice. This is a great outlet for us to send the statement to. That's not how it works. Vice came to the church and asked for a statement based on their stories that they were going to be releasing. A lot of that information that they have comes from a Davis County and federal investigation on Tim and on the Operation Underground Railroad. That case has been closed. There have been no charges filed on that. That is mostly about financial issues. But there are some facts that are in the story by Vice. Now look, don't get me wrong here. Vice is garbage. It's absolute garbage. It is a hard left tabloid type of an outlet, media outlet. It is no friend of the church. It is put out some vile things on the church, but that doesn't mean that the statement is not true. Right? The statement does come from the church, and there is going to be more coming out on the statement from the church and how those statements are come to light and come to become what is public information. That is going to come out early next week. I believe. And so look for that, be aware of that. But there's going to be more light on how this statement got out and how the church works with public statements. So look for that. Beyond that, I want to talk about, this information I'm going to go over here is going to be somewhat general, some specifics, but mostly general. I want to say a couple things here. First of all, I don't know if Tim is guilty of anything. I don't know if he's not guilty of anything. And I am not making a conclusion with this on that whatsoever. But there is information that should be put out there as early as I can get it out there before it goes to these worse media outlets and they start controlling the narrative. Now, I'm just a little podcast, but at least those of you that listen to this podcast, watch this YouTube channel, will have some additional information from someone who is supporting the church and is hoping for the best for Tim. All right, so I think that's important. I spoke directly with two women that are alleged victims of Tim Ballard in the couple's ruse that he uses for his operations. And these two women I spoke to for almost 2 hours independently. They are, the information that they gave me in those, call them interviews, corroborate very well with other information that I've received from several different sources. What I'm trying to say is they're very credible, right, in their statements, but they are anonymous. And when I say they're anonymous, I'm saying I'm not only keeping them anonymous, they are anonymous to me. And this is one of the reasons that I've held off for so long for several days on actually putting this out there. But I believe that the information that they have is going to be put out very quickly, very soon here. And I'm trying to curb that maybe a little bit as best that I can, if that makes any sense to you. There are some things that I want to bring up with this, right? I talked about the couple ruse previously. Tim's wife has gone over this a little bit. This is an idea that Tim Ballard came up with, and where he would train, right? I'm putting in quotation marks here, train a female operative that would go undercover with him. And in essence, the idea of this is that she would be able to say, hey, because there are many things that are presented at this time in this is the scummiest part of the world here. And there are things that come up in these operations where you kind of have to present yourself as a vile person. And it gets very gray very quickly, very murky. And so you're trained in a way where it's a matter of, well, what are you willing to do? What are you willing to say? And you have to come off as, a vile person in these circumstances. But that opens the door, if there is bad intentions, to create, trying to think of how to say this, to put these women in difficult situations, and sometimes situations that they have not agreed on previously, and where they are taken advantage of, perhaps, in this act of this couple's ruse. And that is how these women feel, right? That they have been taken advantage of in this circumstance. Again, I'm not saying anything about Tim being guilty on this, one way or the other. I don't know, but the women are credible, but they are anonymous. And I'm not going to go over a lot of these specifics right now that I have, because if I do that now, then their cover could be blown, so to speak, right? Their cover could be blown on this. So I'm being careful until there are more women that are coming forward. Now, there are a few more that are starting to come forward. And as they come forward, we can be a little bit more generalized in this information so that we're not calling out one or more of them. Now, one thing that is important to know on this is that from what has been stated, and this is not just about the individual women that I've spoken to, but in what has been stated is that there are women who, a lot of these women have not had this experience in the past. In other words, they aren't undercover experts. In many cases, they are simply women that are trying to help kids, and they get trained and are put in positions where it's odd that they would be put into these positions where they're trained to be these operatives. A lot of these women would be housewives. They have got families. They've got husbands and children. And the question is that I would have on this is, why are these women being put into this position to become these operatives where they may have to do very difficult things and do things that they don't really want to necessarily do? And that's the question, right? That is where things get very murky. Have they been told previously all of these things that would happen, or do they get taken advantage of in these situations? And that's where the women lean toward, right? Now, there are people in Tim's camp that would completely categorically deny that this happens, that there are absolute borders that are never crossed, and they are fully supportive of Tim in that sense. The women that I've spoken to, and they're saying that there are more, do not say that, right? That is not what they're saying. So there is a definite discrepancy that is out there between what comes out from these interviews with these women and what Tim's camp is saying. There will be more on this. We will get more specific as we are able to do this. But I felt that we want to get this in a narrative starting out for you guys before the bad characters in the media are the ones that are going to be pushing this, because they are going to do this shortly. I will try to get more information out to you as that I am able to do that. I am out of the country, and it's a little bit difficult for me to get to these at a certain convenient time, but I will try to do that. Thanks for listening.